A monk once asked his master, "If I forget everything I've ever learned, what remains?" The master smiled gently, closed his eyes, and replied, "The beginning." Each morning, before the noise of the world takes hold, there is a fleeting moment, fragile and powerful, when the soul can be heard. In that space between waking and doing, we are invited to remember what truly matters. Not success, not struggle, but presence. We live among distractions, pulled in countless directions, drifting from ourselves. But the Dharma offers a lantern. In this fog, a simple ritual, humble in form, profound in effect. Not a chant of praise, not a call to perfection, but 5 lines, spoken aloud to oneself with sincerity, each a gentle brushstroke on the canvas of the soul. These lines are not magic spells. They are not declarations to impress the world. They are reminders, anchors, pathways back to the sacred within. Rooted in Buddhist teachings, each phrase touches a principle of awakening: gratitude, impermanence, compassion, wisdom, and peace. When spoken with full attention, they shape the day not by force, but by intention. The world may not change, but the way we walk through it will. And perhaps that is the deeper transformation, not escaping the storm, but learning to walk through the rain without forgetting the sky. So before the sun rises too high, before the world distracts you from your essence, return to the breath. Speak from the heart. The path begins not elsewhere, but exactly where you are. Shall we begin? The first whisper to greet the morning is this: I am grateful for this new day, not because the day promises certainty, nor because it guarantees ease, but because it exists. And so do you. Gratitude is not the result of having what we desire. It is the recognition that life itself is enough. In Buddhism, gratitude is not limited to joy. It includes pain, imperfection, and the mystery of simply being. To awaken and breathe again is itself a miracle too easily overlooked. When we say these words aloud, we are not offering thanks to a figure in the sky. We are remembering the sacredness of this moment. We are honoring the fragile beauty of being, alive, even in uncertainty. To speak this line each morning is to bow to the present, without waiting for life to be perfect before we appreciate it. The sun may rise behind clouds, the body may ache, the heart may still be healing, but gratitude softens the grip of complaint and opens the door to presence. The path of awakening begins not with an answers, but with reverence. Gratitude is the first step, not because it solves suffering, but because it invites us to stop running from it. Say it again, slowly. I am grateful for this new day. Let those words settle like dew upon the mind. Let them cleanse your hurried thoughts, because from the soil of gratitude, the roots of peace begin to grow. And now, the breath deepens, gently, without effort. The second line is a quiet truth that echoes through all of existence. I embrace impermanence. The mountains may appear still, the stars steady in the sky, but even they shift, crumble, and fade. Nothing remains fixed, not joy, not sorrow, not even the self you believed you were yesterday. Impermanence is not a threat. It is the gentle hand that loosens our grip. When we resist change, we suffer. When we welcome it, we flow. To embrace impermanence is to walk hand in hand with the river of life, rather than trying to dam it. This line does not ask you to become indifferent. It invites you to become free. Free from the fear of loss, free from the illusion of control, because what you love will change, and what hurts you will pass, and both deserve your full presence while they are here. To whisper, "I embrace impermanence" each morning is to begin a love affair with the fleeting. It is to see beauty in the falling leaf, wisdom in the weathered stone, and peace in knowing that every beginning holds its own ending. When we stop fighting time, time becomes our teacher. When we stop grasping, our hands become open. And in that opening, we remember how to live. Close your eyes. Feel the breath arrive and disappear. Watch a thought rise and dissolve. This is impermanence, not in theory, but in your lungs, in your mind, in your life. And in that truth, strangely, there is calm. The third line calls us gently inward. I cultivate compassion for myself and others. Compassion is not pity. It is not condescension. It is the quiet knowing that all beings carry a burden just as you do. It is the soft gaze that sees pain without turning away. The open hand that reaches without expecting a return. To cultivate compassion begins with yourself. So many carry wounds they refuse to tend. You may have been taught that kindness must always point outward, but the Dharma reminds us, a heart cannot give what it does not offer to itself. Say the line again. I cultivate compassion for myself and others. Feel the warmth of it, the strength in its softness. When you treat your own suffering with gentleness, you learn to do the same with the world. When you make space for your own mistakes, you create space for others to grow. Compassion, weakness, it is the foundation of wisdom. In Buddhist teachings, compassion is not a luxury. It is a necessity for liberation. It is what allows us to meet the world, not with judgment, but with understanding, not with fear, but with love. As you move through your day, watch how often the heart closes, and then gently invite it to open again. You are not perfect. No one is, and yet everyone is worthy of tenderness. Compassion does not solve every problem, but it makes every burden easier to carry, and that is a sacred beginning. The third line calls us gently inward. I cultivate compassion for myself and others. Compassion is not pity. It is not condescension. It is the quiet knowing that all beings carry a burden, just as you do. It is the soft gaze that sees pain without turning away. The open hand that reaches without expecting a return. To cultivate compassion begins with yourself. So many carry wounds they refuse to tend. You may have been taught that kindness must always point outward, but the Dharma reminds us, a heart cannot give what it does not offer to itself. Say the line again. Cultivate compassion for myself and others. Feel the warmth of it, the strength in its softness. When you treat your own suffering with gentleness, you learn to do the same with the world. When you make space for your own mistakes, you create space for others to grow. Compassion, weakness, it is the foundation of wisdom. In Buddhist teachings, compassion is not a luxury. It is a necessity for liberation. It is what allows us to meet the world, not with judgment, but with understanding, not with fear, but with love. As you move through your day, watch how often the heart closes, and then gently invite it to open again. You are not perfect. No one is. and yet everyone is worthy of tenderness. Compassion does not solve every problem, but it makes every burden easier to carry, and that is a sacred beginning. The fourth line is a quiet vow, not shouted but breathed into being. I walk the path of wisdom. What is wisdom, if not the gentle clarity that arises when noise subsides? It is not merely knowledge, not a collection of facts. True wisdom is seeing things as they are, not as you wish them to be. It is knowing the difference between what you can hold and what you must release. To walk the path of wisdom is not to arrive somewhere perfect. It is to keep walking, even when the road is unclear. It is to ask the deeper questions, to be still long enough to listen. The Buddha taught that wisdom grows through 3 roots: learning, reflection, and direct experience. Each morning, as you say this line, you water those roots. You remember that every moment, every conversation, every challenge is a chance to grow in understanding. Wisdom does not always speak loudly. Often, it arrives in silence, in the quiet realization that anger has no anchor, in the soft awareness that your thoughts are not your truth. You do not need to be enlightened to begin walking wisely. You only need the courage to pause, to notice, and to respond with care. Repeat the line softly. I walk the path of wisdom. Let it echo through you like a bell in an empty temple. You are not asked to know everything, only to look deeply with a heart ready to learn. And that is the beginning of vision. The fifth line closes the morning prayer like a sacred seal. I am at peace with myself. This is perhaps the most difficult affirmation to embrace. To say it is to meet every shadow within and bow before it, not in defeat, but in acceptance. It is to acknowledge that you are both light and storm, stillness and desire, and yet still whole. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of gentle understanding. It is the quiet choice to breathe deeply when the mind spins. It is the practice of returning to yourself without judgment, again and again. To be at peace with yourself means no longer waging war against your past, your flaws, or your fears. It means holding them all like stones in your lap, heavy, but no longer resisted. You are not trying to fix yourself this morning. You are simply meeting yourself as you are, with compassion. When you say, I am at peace with myself, say it slowly. Let each word wash over you like warm rain. Feel it land in the chest, not just the lips, and notice what resists it. The voice that says, not yet. The doubt that whispers, you're not enough. Do not fight those voices. Just listen and return once more to the breath, because peace is not a destination. It is a rhythm, a remembering, a choice you make, even as the world forgets. So today, choose peace, not because life is perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. To speak these 5 lines each morning is not a performance. It is a returning, a quiet meeting with yourself before the world begins to speak too loudly. But words, when spoken without presence, are just sounds. Their power lives in your awareness, in the breath you take before them, in the silence between them. That is why creating a sacred space for this practice matters. Not a grand altar, not a perfect room, but a moment, a pause, a willingness to be alone with yourself. Light a candle if it feels right. or simply open the window and let the morning light fall across your face. This, too, is a kind of prayer. Sit comfortably. Let your body be still. The world is already rushing. There's no need for you to do the same. Close your eyes. Inhale slowly, as if gathering the day into your chest. Exhale gently, releasing all you do not need. Now begin. Speak, each line softly, not to impress anyone, not to be perfect, but to awaken. Let each word rise like incense from your heart. Feel the vibrations of the phrases in your chest, not just in your mouth. Visualize as you speak. When you say, "I am grateful for this new day," see the golden sun rising over a quiet mountain. When you say, "I walk the path of wisdom," imagine each step lighting a stone path beneath your feet. Bring the words to life. Let them paint your inner sky. To deepen this ritual is to invite not only the mind, but also the heart and the body to participate. As you say each line, feel the emotion it stirs. Let it move through you. When you declare, "I cultivate compassion for myself and others," let your chest soften. Imagine your heart as a lotus unfolding, petal by petal, releasing the tension it held unknowingly. This is not fantasy. It is devotion. You are training yourself to feel, to listen, to open. And when you say, "I embrace impermanence," remember a moment when something you loved slipped through your fingers. Feel the ache, yes, but also the quiet wisdom in letting go. These emotions, if welcomed with care, become sacred companions. They remind you that you are not a stone, nor a machine. You are a living, breathing presence, capable of healing and awakening. Some mornings, these words may feel distant. Other mornings, they may arrive like old friends. Whatever arises, receive it with tenderness and without judgment. After speaking your 5 lines, do not rush away. Stay. Let the silence settle over you like a warm cloth, offering comfort to your spirit. You may close your eyes again, hands resting gently on your knees, and enter a short meditation. Breathe in gratitude. Breathe out tension. Allow yourself to simply exist without pressure or expectation. Let the stillness teach you what the words cannot. In time, this will no longer feel like a practice. It will become a remembering of who you truly are when the world is silent. There is a moment, quiet and subtle, when something shifts within. It does not announce itself with thunder or light. It arrives like dew forming on leaves at dawn, soft, unassuming, and inevitable. This is what happens when the 5 lines are no longer just recited, but lived. You begin to carry their essence into your smallest gestures. A smile given without reason. A pause before reacting. A breath taken when the world rushes you to speak. The practice seeps into your posture, your thoughts, your choices. Gratitude becomes the lens through which you view the mundane. Impermanence stops being a fear and begins to feel like freedom. Compassion moves from thought to action. Wisdom becomes a question, not an answer. And peace, once distant, begins to feel like home. But this transformation is not linear. Some days will feel still, others stormy. There may be mornings when your voice trembles, when the words feel hollow. That is not failure. It is the path unfolding. In such moments, return to the breath. Return to presence. Know that the practice is working, even when unseen. Like seeds buried in the earth, the affirmations sprout silently beneath the surface. You are becoming, not by force but by attention, and in becoming, you are remembering the part of you that was never lost, only forgotten for a time. Let today be another step on the long path back to your truest nature. Walk it not with urgency, but with reverence. The next breath is your teacher. To walk this path is to accept that every day is a new beginning. No matter how scattered yesterday felt, or how heavy the nights can be, each morning invites a return to self, to silence, to sacred intention. The 5 lines are not a doctrine to obey. They are a mirror held up to your soul each morning. Sometimes the reflection is clear, other times distorted by the fog of emotion, fatigue, or doubt. But the mirror remains, patient and still, waiting for you to see yourself again. You are not reciting affirmations to become someone new. You are remembering the truth already written within you, the truth that says, you are worthy of gratitude, you are capable of compassion, you are wise enough to choose peace, you are strong enough to release what no longer serves, you are human, and that is sacred. There will be mornings when the practice feels mechanical. Say the lines anyway. There will be mornings when your heart feels shut. Say them anyway. These are not just words, they are seeds, and even the driest soil holds the promise of bloom. Let your voice be gentle, not forced. Let your breath be steady, not rushed. Let the space between each line be filled with meaning, not noise. In this ritual, the ordinary becomes holy, and slowly, without needing to prove anything, your life begins to reflect the depth of your inner devotion. What you say becomes what you live. What you live becomes who you are. There is a teaching in silence that no scripture can offer. When the world grows loud, it is not more answers we need. It is space, a breath between thoughts, a pause between moments, a return to the quiet center within. Each of the 5 lines is an invitation to silence, not noise. Their power does not come from volume, but from depth. When spoken with awareness, they echo far beyond the surface. They shape the way we listen, and more importantly, the way we listen to ourselves. To say, I am grateful for this new day, is not to ignore pain. It is to welcome the light that enters despite it. To say, I embrace impermanence, is not to dismiss what we love. It is to love more deeply, knowing we cannot hold anything forever. To say, I cultivate compassion, is to soften toward the parts of ourselves still learning how to heal. And when we say, I walk the path of wisdom, it is not a claim, it is a vow to keep learning, to meet confusion with curiosity, to meet difficulty with dignity. Then we arrive at the last line. I am at peace with myself. Not as a final destination, but as a resting point, a shelter we return to again and again. Say these lines softly. Let them land gently in the garden of your being, and as they root themselves in your soul, notice what begins to grow. Stillness is never empty. It is full of becoming. Transformation is rarely loud. It does not announce itself with fireworks or fanfare. Often it arrives quietly, like the light that slowly spreads before dawn, unnoticed until everything is illuminated. And so, it is with these 5 lines. Their strength is subtle, their influence profound. As days pass, you may begin to notice a softening. You react less and respond more. You speak slower, listen deeper. The world feels no different, yet something within you has shifted. This is not magic, it is presence, and presence changes everything. I am grateful for this new day becomes more than a phrase. It becomes the way you open your eyes, the way you sip your tea, the way you greet the sky. I embrace impermanence becomes the way you release control when plans fall apart, and the way you cherish a fleeting smile from someone you love. Each line is a gate to a deeper awareness. They are not meant to decorate the surface of your life. They are meant to guide you into its depths, where fears are met with patience, where pain is met with gentleness, where even your own shadow finds a place to rest. Do not rush this. The inner unfolding cannot be forced. It blooms when it is ready, when the soil has been nourished with attention and the soul watered with silence. Continue the practice, not to change who you are, but to remember the truth you've always carried. The seed is already within you. Speak and let it awaken. To walk this path is to begin again each morning, not as a different person, but as the same soul seeing more clearly. The affirmations are not commands, they are invitations. They do not demand perfection, they offer permission. Permission to slow down, to be kind, to trust the rhythm of your own unfolding. There will be days when you do not feel grateful, days when impermanence feels cruel, days when compassion seems out of reach, when wisdom seems far away, when peace feels like a distant memory. And even then, the 5 lines are there for you. Repeat them gently, not to pretend you feel them, but to remember they are still true. Even beneath fatigue, confusion, sorrow, they remain. Gratitude is still available, hidden in the smallest detail. Impermanence still holds its wisdom, even in loss. Compassion is still possible, especially when it feels most difficult. Wisdom still lives within, quiet but steady. And peace, it waits for you like a lamp left burning through the night. You are not failing when it feels hard. You are practicing. You are returning. That is the essence of the path. Not constant joy, but constant return. The sacred lives, not in avoiding difficulty, but in how you hold yourself when it comes. So speak the lines. Let them echo through your resistance, your doubt, your silence. Even when your voice is uncertain, speak. Speak slowly. Speak with care. For the soul hears beyond words, and the heart, once called, always finds its way home. In the stillness that follows the morning ritual, something begins to shift. Not loudly, not with grandeur, but with the gentleness of a leaf turning in the breeze. This is the power of subtle transformation. It does not announce itself. It simply changes you, moment by moment, breath by breath. You notice it when the traffic no longer unsettles you, when someone's anger doesn't hook your own, when the pause between reaction and response becomes wide enough for wisdom to enter. These are signs that the 5 lines are no longer something you say. They are something you are becoming. Gratitude weaves into your thoughts like sunlight through a window. Impermanence teaches you to hold with love and let go with grace. Compassion arises before judgment. Wisdom meets your confusion with quiet understanding, and peace. Peace becomes your undercurrent, even in chaos. You begin to feel more rooted, like a tree that bends but doesn't break. The winds of life come and go, But you remain grounded, not in stubbornness, but in presence. This is not a performance. It is not about impressing others with serenity. It is about living from your center, letting the 5 lines echo softly within you until their wisdom shapes your choices without effort. That is the beauty of this path. It teaches you to live more truly, not to escape life, but to enter it fully, with awareness, kindness, and an open heart. And still, the path goes deeper. The question now is, how far are you willing to go? As the days unfold and your morning practice takes root, you begin to notice a soft but steady unraveling within. Not a coming apart, but a peeling away of what is not essential. Layers of old fears, habits, and illusions begin to dissolve. Like mist vanishing under the morning sun, this is the nature of true spiritual work. It does not add more to you. It removes what is false. Each affirmation, spoken with sincerity, becomes a mirror, reflecting not who you wish to be, but who you truly are beneath all roles and expectations. Gratitude reminds you that nothing is owed and everything is a gift. Impermanence reveals that clinging is suffering and letting go is freedom. Compassion shows you that even your wounds can become bridges. Wisdom reveals that your thoughts are not facts, they are visitors. And peace reminds you that the home you seek has always been inside. Now life begins to feel less like a problem to solve and more like a moment to meet. You stop running toward or away, and instead you arrive, fully, humbly, gently. You realize that healing was never about fixing yourself, but about returning to yourself. And in that returning, you begin to feel whole, not because everything is perfect, but because you are present. The river flows, and you are no longer trying to control its course. You simply become the river, and in becoming the river, you begin to sense the ocean calling. Are you ready to follow it? There is a path that cannot be walked with your feet. It is the path inward, the journey through the landscapes of your own consciousness. No map will guide you. No one can walk it for you, and yet it is the only journey that matters. Each morning, as you speak the 5 lines, you are not merely repeating words. You are stepping through an unseen doorway, a threshold between distraction and presence, between unconsciousness and awakening. The words become seeds, and the soil is your attention. With time, with care, something begins to grow. This journey is not always gentle. Some mornings, your mind will resist. Doubts will rise like storm clouds. You may feel distant from the peace you once touched. But even this is part of the practice. The clouds are not the sky. Let them pass. The discipline of returning, of showing up again and again with honesty, is itself a form of love. Not dramatic, not loud, but steadfast, quiet, transformative. You begin to see that your suffering was never a punishment. It was a call, a sacred invitation to look deeper, to soften, to awaken. And as the fog of habitual thinking begins to lift, clarity comes, not as answers, but as silence, not as control, but as surrender. You begin to understand. The goal is not to escape the world, but to see it clearly, and to meet it with a heart that no longer defends, but simply opens. What might you discover there? Some mornings arrive more quietly than others, as if the soul itself is watching from a sacred distance, observing the thoughts that rise like mist on still water. It is in these subtle beginnings that the depth of your practice reveals itself. The 5 lines are not merely recitations. They are sacred footpaths that lead inward, to that place where peace does not depend on the outside world, but on how you choose to meet it. When you say, "I am grateful for this new day," you are not just acknowledging time. You are entering into communion with all that breathes. The wind stops being noise. It becomes a messenger. The light of morning doesn't just shine. It reaches out like a gentle hand. In that moment, you are fully present. You are truly alive. When you repeat, "I embrace impermanence," you no longer resist the natural unfolding. You see that suffering arises not from what changes, but from the desire to hold still what was never meant to stay. And in releasing that grip, you find a strange and liberating softness you didn't know you longed for. "I cultivate compassion" is not a claim. It is a soft, enduring vow, one you make toward your own flaws, your own regrets, your own healing. And in that vow, others are included. These affirmations are not about becoming someone else. They are a remembrance of what you've always been. A heart learning to walk home. A soul returning to stillness again and again. Wisdom does not arrive like a flash of lightning. It builds slowly, like a mountain forming over centuries. Layer upon layer of presence, attention, and insight. When you say, "I walk the path of wisdom," you are not claiming to know. You are choosing to keep learning, to keep listening, even when the answers remain hidden in silence. Wisdom isn't loud. It speaks in quiet gestures, in the way you pause before reacting, in the way you hold space for another's pain without trying to fix it, in the way you notice the moon rising and remember you are just passing through. To walk this path is to let go of being right and embrace the mystery of not knowing. Every morning, as you speak this line, you commit to seeing life as a teacher. The smallest event becomes a lesson. A delay teaches patience. A disagreement teaches humility. A quiet moment teaches you the value of stillness. Wisdom blooms not from control, but from surrender. And then, as you say, "I am at peace with myself," you don't need perfection to feel whole. You begin to accept your scars as part of the landscape. You see the cracks not as flaws, but as the very places where the light can enter. These 5 lines are more than words. They are seeds, and each time you speak them, you water them with awareness. One day, without effort, they bloom quietly within you, and your life begins to reflect their beauty. The journey of speaking these 5 lines each morning is not a sprint toward transformation. It is a gentle unfolding. Some days, the words may feel powerful, alive. Other days, they may seem distant, quiet. This is not a failure. This is the rhythm of practice. The ocean does not roar every day. Some days, it whispers, yet it remains vast and deep, always moving. By returning to these affirmations daily, you carve a sacred groove in your consciousness. With time, the lines no longer feel like something you recite. They become a part of how you live. Gratitude begins to color your mornings. Impermanence softens your grip on what you cannot hold. Compassion becomes your default response. Wisdom guides your steps. Peace settles into your breath. But this path also demands gentleness with yourself. If you miss a day, return the next. If you feel disconnected, speak the words anyway. Let them be like a bell, ringing through the fog, calling you back to your center. True transformation does not rush. It waits patiently in the repetition of sacred things. Each time you return to these 5 lines, you are saying yes to life, yes to becoming, yes to the quiet power that grows inside you, and slowly your days begin to shift. The world outside may not change, but your way of walking through it does. Speak gently, breathe deeply, begin again. For this practice is not about perfect mornings. It is about a steady heart that rises again and again with the sun. And now, as you sit quietly, holding these 5 lines in your heart, something subtle begins to unfold. This practice is no longer just about words. It becomes a way of being, a soft current that shapes your inner world, breath by breath, moment by moment. Gratitude reminds you that every sunrise is a beginning. Impermanence teaches you to love without holding too tightly. Compassion invites you to meet each being, including yourself, with tenderness. Wisdom becomes your compass, even when the path is unclear. And peace settles like dew on the soul, silent, still, unwavering. This is the essence of the Dharma, not a doctrine to memorize, but a truth to embody. These 5 lines are not just affirmations, they are sacred seeds. Water them with presence. Let the light of your awareness help them grow. In time, they will blossom, not only within you, but around you. And if this practice has touched something within you, let it ripple outward. Share this journey with someone who may need it. Invite them not just to listen, but to begin, to breathe, to feel, to wake up. Subscribe to the Inner Silence, not only to this channel. Carry the practice with you, not as a ritual, but as a remembrance. Your life is your message. Let it be mindful. Let it be compassionate. Let it be wise. Each morning, speak. Each day, walk. Each breath, return. This is the path. This is your temple, and it begins again, now.